Oh, what is going on? It is official. Week 1 is here, and we at the SGPN Fantasy Football Team are here to help you maybe walk away with one of these bad boys this year, maybe 2, maybe 3, courtesy of Trophy Smack here. Hashtag not a sponsor. Yeah. But hey, Dave, Adam, how y'all doing today? You ready? You ready for some football?
We're good. I forgot the stress of trying to set like a dozen lineups on the morning of and scrambling on Thursday to make sure everybody's set. It was a good rush to have at like 7:45 on Thursday to just make sure I had everybody in the right spot. So I'm glad it's back. I'm glad.
Yeah, did you make any of those mistakes where you left a Chiefs or Lions player in your flex instead of the
That
position?
was most of the moves I had to make, was moving those guys into RB or wide. I have no wide receivers other than Amon-Ra in one league, but it was a lot of RB in one league. I have Gibbs and Pacheco, one RB, one flex. So that's a wash right now.
Nice. I like it. Dave, how about you? You have any of those mistakes week 1?
No mistakes, but you'd think week 1 would be a little easier than it is. But apparently, week 0 was really tough, and we have a whole bunch of injuries to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. And Dave, I listened to you in 1. I ended up putting Jerick McKinnon in there. Like, all right, I'm good.
Oh man,
it was rough, but
already throwing shade. I appreciate it. How does Sky Moore do, buddy?
Well, that's all right. Sky Moore didn't do much better, so either way, I was going to be screwed. So
yeah, I put some underdog pick'em on Sky Moore because I was trying to hedge my bets, and we both were wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, J. Mark, Miranda, how y'all doing? Hope y'all are ready for this Sunday as well. Shout out to Old Fashioned Football. For those of you who are listening in or watching, make sure you check them out on your podcast location of choice, whether that be Spotify, Apple, whatever. Old Fashioned Football, talking auction values and things of that nature. So make sure you give them a shout out. Hey, we're here to talk start sits. We're going to go through the game slate. We're going to spend as much time as we can answering, obviously, live questions and whatnot, but we're going to fill that open space, just going game by game throughout. We're going to go till about 11 o'clock, so get your questions in, whether that be in the Discord channel, whether that be on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Just get them in. We'll be sure to get them answered. But, hey, let's go to a frequent listener of ours, Dave. Nate, what's up, man? And he's got a question around Drake London with the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Carolina Panthers, or do you roll with that hot stuff in Washington with Jahan Dotson against the lowly Arizona Cardinals? So where you live there, Dave? Drake London or Jahan Dotson?
Yeah, I'm going to check the rankings just to make sure I don't misspeak on this one, but I believe I have Drake London just a slightly ahead of Jahan Dotson. I don't think Dotson is a bad play. I think the Commanders absolutely just walk over the Cardinals, and I think that means Terry McLaurin has a light day of work. So I think Jahan Dotson is going to be the wide receiver 1 for Washington today, but I also think it's going to be a very short game. They just run Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, and just walk all over the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Dotson's definitely the play. Down the stretch last year, last 5 games, he was at least 5 targets in every game and 50 yards and 50 plus yards in all but one, not to mention 3 touchdowns. Don't forget the torrid start he had to last year. Sam Howell, as a young quarterback, is going to be looking for those guys that show open and get open on their own. A banged up Terry McLaurin isn't going to do that. So Jahan Dotson is going to have a monster day today against a banged up Cardinals defense. And then when you also factor in Drake London catching the ball from Desmond Ridder, he did start to show something down the stretch last year, but that was without Kyle Pitts down the stretch. With Kyle Pitts back and healthy, there's a lot more target competition in Atlanta. So I'm going to go Dotson, and a lot of this is because I think Jahan Dotson's going to be a top 10 receiver this year.
Yeah.
Top 10. I thought you liked Dotson. Top 10. I have it 26 and 27, literally back to back in my rankings. Wide receiver 26 is London, 27 Dotson this week.
Nice. Yeah. And I'll side with you all with Jahan Dotson, but I'm going to talk about why I don't want to start Drake London over him, since there was a lot of talk around Jahan Dotson and what he did last year and what we're looking at and hoping for him moving forward this season. But look, Carolina, you got a healthy Jeremy Chin. You got a healthy J.C. Horn. You got the new addition of Von Bell. I think the secondary, along with the linebacker core, really the back half of that defense, I expect to actually be pretty solid this season. So you look at that and you say, okay, well, who are they worried about? Are they worried about Olamide Zaccheaus? Are they worried about Kaderil Hodge? No, they're going to be focusing in on Drake London because Kyle Pitts has still not played that much in the offseason. He's already tweaked and had a little bit of injury issues early on in the preseason. So I think it's going to allow that team to really kind of focus in on Drake London. And again, with that Von Bell addition, I expect them to be able to kind of keep him in front of the defense with no real big plays. So I'm also going to go with Jahan Dotson. All right, let's go, Dave. Let's look at one more question that Nate has around your New York Giants. Talking Darren Waller, looks like he's a full go for Sunday Night Football. Are you comfortable starting him, or are you pivoting to a Luke Musgraves for Nate? We talked about Dalton Schultz before we went live. Is he a guy you're comfortable with? Who are you looking to start, or are you comfortable with Darren Waller in your starting tight end position with that injury hamstring unknown going into tonight?
Yeah, I'm starting Waller. And if I do go with another option, I'm not going so far down to go to Luke Musgrave. I feel like that you have other options. Gerald Everett, Jawan Johnson, Chig. There's other options. I got Hurst above him. I got Gesicki above him. But if Waller's in your lineup, if they say Waller's good to go, I'm playing him.
Yeah. Adam, how about you? You comfortable with Darren Waller in your lineup?
Darren Waller is staying in my lineup until he is ruled out, and I'm rolling with him every day and twice on Sundays because he's going to be a top 5 tight end this year, if not the number 1. He's just been such an athletic monster. He's been so good, and now he steps into an offense that has no number 1 receiving option. The thing that set the Giants back time after time last year was the lack of a number 1 option. Even a banged up Darren Waller is probably better than most of the options they rolled out last year. So that's just going to be lights out for him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So much so to where I've got a league where I am starting 2 tight ends, TJ Hawkinson, and I'm benching guys like Elijah Moore and some guys like that to play Darren Waller over him. I 100% agree. I think he's a 100% play this year. Now, this week, the one thing, those hamstrings, you can tweak those in pregame. So please make sure you have an option to plug in just in case something happens and he tweaks that hamstring pregame. You don't want to go in with him in your starting lineup on Sunday night with no other alternatives if you can manage to do that. Dave, you talked huge here. Hey, Bellinger, make sure he's out there and you're thinking about starting Waller. Maybe you pick him up if he's on the waiver wire, which is very plausible with the addition of Darren Waller in the offseason that happened. All right. Brad, we got Brad Spencer. Thanks for jumping in, man. He's got a question around Deion Jackson. Hey, looks like bell cow Zach Moss may not be playing. He got downgraded to doubtful. So is Deion getting all that volume, or are you rolling with Gabe Davis, the second, third option in the Buffalo Bills offense? This is a half-point PPR league. Dave, let's kick it to you first.
Yeah, so if you are expected to win this game, then just go roll Deion Jackson. He's the safe play. He's going to get the volume. I know there's some Evan Hull love out in the streets, and he's a guy that I want to cheer for. But Deion Jackson is the incumbent. We actually saw it last year. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit better of a rusher, and he also can catch the ball. I know there's not going to be a lot of dump-offs from Anthony Richardson, but you could see a lot of those design plays where the running back shoots through the middle of the offensive line, just turns around, nice safety blanket for for Anthony Richardson, and he could easily get 20 touches. So I'm going to go him. But if you are down, let's say you played Jerick McKinnon and Sky Moore this week and you need a home run, Gabe Davis in a possibly high-scoring game there, it's going to be a competitive game for the NFC East, then you go Gabe Davis.
Adam?
Deion Jackson all day. He has a high floor in games last year where he was the only guy. We saw him really emerge as that elite pass catching option purely from a volume standpoint. You really got to be in on him. A young quarterback's going to need a guy to check it down to, going to not feel comfortable throwing it down the field to contested cast guys like Michael Pittman as much. And they're going to keep it short. They're going to keep it simple for him. The Steichen offense really does emphasize that, making things easy for the quarterback. So give me Deion Jackson, because also this Bills-Jets game, Gabe Davis, you don't know what this new offense is going to look like with, the emergence of Knox and Kincaid. They really like Gabe Davis, and there's rumors they want to try to keep him long-term, but you always have to be questioning that, because we've seen him, he goes away in games sometimes. And so in week one, you want to start off high, Deion Jackson.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, when you look at guys, Gabe Davis is likely going to see a little bit of Sauce Gardner, and I'm sorry, he's not going to be able to beat that. Diggs plays a lot of his stuff in the slot. I don't think the Jets are going to be looking to shadow, Sauce Gardner with Stephon Diggs. So most likely Gabe is going to see some of that stuff. And I don't want anything to do with Gabe Davis against Sauce Gardner. I'm sorry. He's a bench, in my opinion, for this week. So I'm rolling Deion Jackson, especially with the news of Zach Moss being doubtful. I'm not concerned with Evan Hull, a rookie, late round draft pick, coming in and taking a bunch of snaps away from a guy that we saw get 10 targets and 10 catches in an opportunity where he was the lead dog last season. Now, do I think he gets 10 targets from Anthony Richardson? Probably not. But that's the other piece to this. Anthony Richardson, that rushing quarterback, likely the defense is going to have to pay attention to him, and they can't just focus on the run game here. So, or Deion Jackson running the ball. They got to keep in mind that Anthony Richardson also could take that ball and tuck it and run, which I think could be end up being a huge game for Deion Jackson. So, a couple for Deion and one for Gabe. So let's move on to the next one.
Let me just make one point about Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis has never had more than 3 receptions against the Jets in his entire career. So the past 3 years, never exceeded 3 receptions. And that includes a monster 14 target game in 2021. And he's gone over 40 yards once, and that was for 105. No touchdowns against the Jets for Gabe Davis in his career.
Yeah, I think Dave's got a really good point around. Gabe Davis has had a few just absolutely monstrous games, right? 3 touchdown games here, 140 yards here. Like, he's got the ability to explode. So I do like the insight around, hey, if you're projected to win, you roll with the known commodity of Deion Jackson. If you're projected to lose, hey, maybe you take that long shot with Gabe Davis and the ton of touchdowns. So, Brad, hopefully that helps you out, dude. And good luck this week. Let's move on to Cad. Question around Rachaad White, starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Cam Akers, starting running back, and really nothing behind him. As much as I love Zach Evans and Kyron Williams, Cam Akers in the Los Angeles Rams. So, Adam, where are you at with that start?
Sean Tucker. I want nothing to do with Rachaad White or Cam Akers. Just with Cam Akers, I think the Rams are going to be in just tank mode this year. That's a team where almost half of their roster more than half of the roster going into training camp was undrafted rookies. This is a team that needs to start restocking picks and talent. And so they're not going to be playing a lot of competitive football this year. And a guy like Cam Akers is just going to get run into the line and run into the ground and just bashed back. When you're looking at Rachaad White, I know there's been a lot of buzz around him, but I think everybody's forgetting just how good Sean Tucker is. Everybody's going back to he's undrafted. Everybody forgets that before he had the medical issue, which is now cleared and he's greenlit, and won't affect his football performance. He was going in the second and third rounds in drafts. He was absolutely dominant as a sophomore and freshman in college. His junior year, he took a step back a little bit, but that's because that Syracuse team took a step back. Rachaad White is mid, averaged 3.5 yards an attempt last year, averaged less than 5 yards a target through the air. For a running back in an open offense where receivers are taking the top off, you need to see more with that. Rachaad White isn't going to get it done. It's Sean Tucker. So Kakakad or Kaka da da da, bro, go pick up Sean Tucker right now. Drop Cam Akers.
Whoa, drop Cam Akers, Dave. Mm-hmm. Where are you at with that one?
I was surprised by the option C. I like Sean Tucker, and as a dynasty, I like Sean Tucker. But in redraft, if you can slide Cooper Kupp into your IR and stash Sean Tucker, that's fine. I like Sean Tucker, but I like Rachaad White this week. Baker Mayfield gets scared, checks it down. Could be a little bit of a shootout. Either way, Tampa Bay is going to be playing from behind almost the entire game. I have Rachaad White as a top 15 play this week. I do like his ability to pass catch, but I just think he's the starter until we know more.
Yeah, so I'm going to make this really murky because I'm rolling Cam Akers here. And while I agree Rachaad White has some pass catching upside, there are a lot of options there, whether you look at K. Dotton at the tight end, whether you look at Mike Evans, whether you look at Chris Godwin, my Lovejoy and Rakim Jarrett getting some opportunity as the third option in that offense. There's a lot. You look at Cam Akers, he's going up against the Seattle Seahawks. And everybody's like, oh, their defense is really good. They were the 5th worst against the run last year. They almost allowed 2,000 yards rushing and almost 800 yards receiving to the running back position last year. So that's a situation where I really like the upside of Cam Akers, not to mention the fact Cooper Kupp ain't playing. He's on the IR now. So who's going to take all of that opportunity away from Cam Akers? Who? Van Jefferson, who we love. Coach's kid, wide receiver coach's kid, loved him coming out of Florida, just never really amounted to anything. Ben Skornick, is that who we're worried about? Outside of Tyler Higbee, who's catching balls from Matthew Stafford? Right now, I think Cam Akers is going to get the volume in the rushing game. I think he's going to get some pass catching upside as well for the Rams. So I am rolling personally with Cam Akers. So you got 3 answers, tough decision to make. You got Rachaad White, you got Cam Akers, you got drop Cam Akers and start Sean Tucker. So go with your gut there, I would say. All right, let's move on to Stephen Grease or Grise. I hope I'm saying your name right, bud. Asking Breece Hall or Deion Jackson. And yes, this is a real question right now. This is where we are. You hear all the news about Dalvin Cook. This morning, they say Dalvin Cook is getting an abundance of carries this week. So do you trust Breece Hall, or are you rolling with the hopefully volume of Deion Jackson in half-point PPR? Adam, let's go to you first.
So this is like a very in-depth question because my answer is going to be, who do you have to go on Monday night if Breece Hall can't play? Because that's the thing you're going to be up against is – Breece Hall could play. Breece Hall has potential to play well, but he's also a guy coming off a really bad leg injury. And guys coming off injuries like that, Achilles and ACLs, really struggle in like the first half of the year coming back off of it, even if they got hurt early. But he did. It's, you got to be nervous about putting a guy like that in your starting lineup so short out. We saw how limited Cam Akers looked when he came back last year at the start of the year. And, the other thing is he didn't play against Buffalo last year, so we don't know what he looks like against that team. And we also have Mekhi Becton and Dwayne Brown questionable still for this Jets offensive line. There are just a lot of question marks going into a Monday night game. So if you have a potential pivot, do you have Michael Carter? Do you have Dalvin Cook? Do you have a Bills receiver? Do you have, a Jets receiver, maybe not named Garrett Wilson, but I'm not even loving that. do you have options to pivot to? If you don't have options to pivot to, you can't put Breece Hall in your lineup this week. You need to play Deion Jackson unless you're okay just potentially putting up 4 points out of your flex.
Yep. Dave?
That's easy for me. I'm going with Deion Jackson. I like to play it safe. And unless you have Dalvin Cook or James Cook, then I'm sitting Breece Hall. They said they're going to play it safe. They paid Dalvin Cook a ton of money. Actions speak louder than words. And when you go out and you pay Dalvin Cook that much money, it tells me you're probably going to keep it safe for Breece Hall. And then they come out and say it. Yeah, I'm out on Breece Hall for the first couple of weeks. I think Dalvin Cook is a decent play, but the Bills are also a pretty stout run defense on top of all this, and that's another reason why I'm going Jackson. And the Colts going to be from behind. He's going to get a ton of work in the if it's half PPR, he's going to get a bunch of targets.
Yeah, and I'm also rolling Deion Jackson here. I just think not only did they pay Dalvin Cook did not look to be a different player last year. He still ran for almost 1,700 yards. This is a guy that still has gas in the tank right now, even with as much work as what he's gotten through his career at Florida State and, in the meantime here in Minnesota. So I'm rolling Deion Jackson. I'm actually pretty high on Dalvin Cook this week. I think I have him at RB 17 right now, above guys like Cam Akers. I just think he gets the bulk of that work, and they really proceed very cautiously with Breece Hall early on in the season, and hell, even through the back half of the season. If Dalvin Cook continues to show how good he is, I don't think there's a real reason to rush Breece Hall back. It's a one-year deal. You let Dalvin do his thing. Breece gets an entire season with a little bit of work here and there, and then gets to come back fully healthy for that 2024 season. So 3 for 3 on this one, Steven. Hopefully you roll Deion Jackson and it bodes you well. All right. So we're out of questions. Adam, I know you were looking at some stuff on Twitter. Do we have anything coming in?
Oh, yeah, we got some good ones. Actually, I got a good one from a guy in my league. Who are you starting as your QB2 and 2 quarterback? Derek Carr or Brock Purdy?
Yeah, so I'll go first. I'm going Derek Carr. I mean, we know what we have in Brock Purdy. I think Dave and I have talked about this a lot. It's 202. He's going to give you a nice solid floor. I think the upside that you could see with the New Orleans Saints is a little bit higher of an upside than what you're going to see with Brock Purdy. I think they're going to lean on that run game just like you always see Kyle Shanahan do. Whereas without Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller actually hurt and possibly not playing this week, are you just going to roll Jamal Williams 25 times that game? I don't think so. You got a healthy Michael Thomas. You got Jimmy G. You got Jimmy Graham back. Not that I think Jimmy Graham is like the saint that he used to be, but you got Jimmy Graham, you got Michael Thomas, you got the stud in Chris Olave, you got Rashid Shaheed for those deep balls. So I'm rolling with a little bit more upside that I see with Derek Carr rather than Brock Purdy.
Derek Carr and upside aren't necessarily two things I put together. I don't know how many top 5 games he's ever had, but Brock Purdy's never had a top 5 game either. And so I will take the better matchup. Tennessee is a funnel defense. They're very stout against the run, and you can pass all over them. And that fits into what's going on with exactly what Brad said. They're going to have to pass a little bit more because not only is they have people injured and they don't have as many options, but what if Jamal Williams gets hurt? Then they're really, really stuck. So I forget who they're – and I got to go find out who their other backup is, the backup to the backup to the backup. So, give me them. Healthy Michael Thomas. I like Juwan Johnson this week and Chris Olave. I think they're both going to be right around that mid QB2 range.
Yeah, I think you're maybe underselling Derek Carr a little bit. I think he's going to be a fringe QB1. He's got great receivers. He's got great weapons. He's been really good. Last year, he had multiple games where he was close to 300 yards, multiple touchdowns in more than half of his games with just Devontae Adams and then a bunch of scrubs. This year, he gains just all of these weapons and options in Olave and Michael Thomas and Juwan Johnson. He's got a good running back in Jamal Williams. And then, don't forget about Rashid Shaheed, A.T. Perry, Keith Kirkwood. They have options. They have depth. And he brings Foster Moreau with him.
You left that Rashid Shaheed. That's one I actually like.
Yeah, I mean, he's their number 3. I mean, and that's the thing. This is a team that has depth at receivers for him, and he can be productive in the right offense.
I love J Mark coming in here to my defense. I've been saying this about Derek Carr for, I don't know, about 3 or 4 years now, and he's yet to put the league on notice. I still got some hope out there for him. So J Mark and I on the same page. And like, Dave, come on, man. Why you got to put all that negativity out there?
I get it. I take it back. I love me some Jamal Williams, but apparently not as much as everybody loves Derek Carr. Everybody's ganging up on me over Derek Carr over here. Never really thought that would happen. Well, I mean, you're on the show, so it's already gonna happen. Derek Carr, he's actually got a back tattoo of Derek Carr in that white leather jacket. Yeah, it's nice.
All right. I found a good one here. Corey House on Twitter asking Marquise Brown, Jacoby Myers, or Jaden Reed.
Draft better.
And I just feel so sorry for this guy.
Draft better.
I mean, that's painful, man. Like, that hurts. But that's the reality of the situation is you took Jacoby Myers. You're thinking, okay, the slot receiver in a Josh McDaniels offense. You can't undersell a guy like that. And then maybe you're also thinking about guys like Marquise Brown, who's the clear and undisputed number 1 in Arizona. I mean, nobody's better. I don't know if Josh Dobbs can get him the ball, but you're hoping Kyler comes back. I mean, if that was the end of your draft and you're dealing with some wide receiver 2 injury issues, this is a very real reality. I mean, are we starting any of these guys, or are you going to waivers to find somebody?
Marquise Brown is questionable.
Yeah, he's got, and it's a hamstring, and part of his strength is running fast. Right?
Doesn't he just perpetually have a hamstring injury?
Well, and Arizona has a lot of motivation to lose, not a lot of motivation to win. So I would go with the safe Jacoby Myers here. Yep. Sorry, my son is strutting in here with some shades on. I don't know what
his shady race.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but he was strutting.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm Jacoby Myers. Mark, as much as I love Hollywood Brown, I think once things work themselves out, he's still going to be a very usable asset on your team for this year and even future years, in my opinion. Right now is not it. He's coming off a hamstring. Josh Dobbs throwing the ball to him. I just don't trust that situation right now. Jacoby Myers, I think, has a potential to see a decent amount of targets right now. Not that I don't think Devontae Adams is going to garner the majority of those, but you got to think he is going to see a lot of Patrick Surtain. And Patrick Surtain is very good at football. Now, is he as good as Devontae Adams to shut him down? I don't know, but I do think knowing Jimmy G is as safe as a quarterback as he is, he's not going to force the ball into that window if it's not there. So I do think there's a potential where Jacoby Myers sees a decent amount of targets in that, let's say 5 or 6 range. And he does have that big play downfield ability as well. So I'm rolling with Jacoby Myers. Jaden Reed's not even on my radar. Rookie, third option. I know there's some questions around Romeo Doubs and his health and whether or not he's going to play or not, but I'm not rolling a rookie wide receiver who was originally the third option for his team out in week 1. I want to see how that situation plays out.
Who would be a guy off of waivers that you're maybe like last second, I got to have somebody? Who's a guy you've seen on waivers that you're like, you could talk me into this guy?
So it's different in dynasty and redraft.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm talking redraft, there's a chance you got guys like Robert Woods or Nico Collins out there who are, with John Mechie out, could see some targets from CJ Stroud. Ben Skwarnak is out there. We talked a little bit about him. Could see a decent amount of targets as well. Do you trust in him? Probably not, but there are some options out there because of the wide receiver landscape and injuries and things of that nature that are probably out there in redraft. In dynasty, it's a whole different ball game. The waiver wire in most leagues are going to be, those guys are going to be picked up.
Oh,
they're going to be on
slim
teams,
pickings right
A lot
there.
tougher.
Yeah, I think we're talking specifically redraft, and so it would help if Corey just let us know what his stuff look like, because every league's different. I think there are going to be some Giants receivers. You're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson not playing, so probably Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins might be available in your leagues.
Get it, Paris. Show them what you got.
But none of those guys I would take over Jacoby Myers. Michael Wilson, if you're looking at like who's going to be the next man up after Marquise Brown, but Josh Dobbs is throwing the ball. I'm gonna roll with Jacoby Myers. I think he'll be fine. They paid him a ton of money. It's a system, and also the Denver Broncos are so tough outside. They're gonna have to throw it inside, which is obviously where Jimmy Graham's more comfortable, anyways.
Yep.
Oh, this is a good one. Deontay Johnson or Mike Evans?
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, it's not even close for me.
You sure?
I'm probably way too low on Mike Evans, but
it's not Mike Evans. It's not Mike Evans. It's Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's inability to read the defense, his inability to get the ball to his alpha receivers on the outside, and then Evans struggled last year with Tom Brady. And now the offensive line is absolutely pitiful. We saw what Baker Mayfield crumbled behind a bad offensive line. No thanks.
So let me make a quick case for Mike Evans as to why you are too low on it. Mike Evans, classic contested catch. We think contested catch receiver. You look it up in the dictionary, there's a picture of Mike Evans. Mike Evans, the big physical guy. Baker Mayfield can't read a defense, but he knows where Mike Evans is. Let's not forget, Mike Evans got Johnny Football drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. Johnny Football, famously, as we learned, watched 0.0 hours of film in his time at Cleveland on his own. So if a guy like Johnny Manziel can find Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield can do the same thing. Mike Evans is a big, physical, dominant receiver. Chris Godwin's going to get a lot of attention, and Mike Evans is now in a contract year. Mike Evans is going to be looking to ball out, and he's going to make sure Baker Mayfield gets him the damn ball. So, and with Deontay Johnson, I like him, but I also think George Pickens is going to have a really big role in that offense, and I don't know that Kenny Pickett can support two receivers. So as I kind of like think about this, they're in a similar tier, but I like the upside of Mike Evans because he's going to get a lot better goal line work, and I like his ability to convert touchdowns more than Deontay Johnson's.
Yeah, I'm a little bit higher on Kenny Pickett, it sounds like, than you are. I do think he can produce for at least two, maybe even three pass catchers in that offense. I think if you look at them the back half of the season, they were able to move the ball a ton. They just had very low touchdown percentage after they got into the red zone. That's not a sticky stat. I think that's set up for positive regression. Deontay Johnson is consistently open. Even if you look at how bad his statistics were last year from a receptions and yards after the catch perspective, you go to Matt Harmon's reception perception, he is still very, very good at playing the wide receiver position. Shout out to Matt Harmon's reception perception. But I think you see an upstep in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And I think Deontay Johnson continues to do what he does, which is garner a ton of targets. And Mike Evans for years and years have given you one catch for 1 yard games. He's a very up and down receiver. And with to Dave's point, where you got Baker Mayfield, who's not a great deep ball thrower to begin with, I'm fading Mike Evans for sure.
Yeah, I got 24 and 29. Deontay Johnson over Evans. I don't think Kenny Pickett supports two wide receiver ones, but possibly two wide receiver twos. We got a question here. How much play can Kincaid realistically get in between him and Njoku? And also breaking news, I moved Derek Carr up 2 spots for you guys.
There we go.
Yeah. Success.
Peer pressure.
He was already ahead of Purdy. Now he just, widened the gap a little bit. Now he's 5 spots ahead of Purdy.
We all think Sam Darnold's going to start the majority of the games for the 49ers this year.
My hot take for old-fashioned football was Kyle Shanahan was going to end up being quarterback this year because they ran out of options. But I found out that league rules are they don't allow that.
Oh,
They
geez.
have to fire him as the head coach.
I think it's going to be Sam Darnold is going to play double-digit games this year.
It could. I'm a little worried about arm fatigue. But what do you guys think about this situation, Kincaid? I'm going to Njoku. I'm really excited about rookies, and I love Kincaid. I was the highest on Kincaid this all offseason, but I'm still going to go with Njoku. He's a proven commodity, and he's like, it's not like I'm taking a guy that's ranked 18th. Like, he's ECR tight end 7, might be 5 by the end of the show, with how these tight ends are dropping.
Yeah, and the thing there is you're comparing Njoku and Kincaid, and you're looking at two different situations. One is actually Njoku has a question mark at quarterback. You know, we're not sure if Deshaun Watson can return to the levels he was at, and he's never been a big tight end guy. You know, Njoku had a nice 80 target season last year, 58 catches, 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. Can he go higher? He has the physical ability to go higher, but I don't know if that can catch up. Dalton Kincaid, the reason he's so interesting is because the Bills haven't had a true slot receiver since 2021 when Cole Beasley left, when he was 112 targets, and that was Cole Beasley catching the ball falling down. Dalton Kincaid can do more than catch the ball and fall down and get tackled. So if Cole Beasley can do 80 catches and almost 700 yards on 112 targets when he is just getting open and then falling down because he can't escape after the catch, what's Dalton Kincaid going to do in that slot option for the Bills? And the upside's going to be there. The Jets defense is going to try to take away Diggs and Gabe Davis. Dalton Kincaid is in line for a monster season, and I like him a little bit better than Njoku because I think he's going to see more targets than Njoku right now.
Yeah, I can understand that perspective for the long term for the season, but if we're just talking week 1, I'm rolling in Njoku in a shootout against Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to have to throw the ball to keep up. The Bengals lost both of their starting safeties and did not really do anything to address that position. And we've seen Deshaun Watson go to Njoku in the preseason. He had a really nice, beautiful throw over the, a little post route to the corner for a touchdown to David Njoku in the preseason. So I do think the athleticism of Njoku against, lower tiered safeties in a shootout plays and bodes better this week than a Dalton Kincaid in quite frankly, an unknown situation. We don't know. We hear all the talk around him starting in the slot and this and that, but I'm not willing to roll with him in my starting tight end position when I have a known commodity in David Njoku in week 1. Now, if he comes out, I'm willing to take that loss in week 1, to be honest. If he comes out and he's seeing 70% of the snaps in the slot and he's catching balls, he's getting targets, he's moving. Okay, hey, now I know what they're actually doing with him, what the plan is, and I will adjust accordingly. But week 1 is not the time that I want to take that shot when I have a guy like Njoku available for it. So I'm rolling David Njoku.
I'll throw a sneaky stash out there for you guys. Again, if you can slide people into your out or your IR spot, do that and stash high value handcuffs first thing, especially handcuffs to your running backs. But again, money speaks, and the Bills gave 2 years, $9.5 million to Deontay Hardy, 5.25 guaranteed. That's not chump change. And he's one of those Gabe Davis types where he's a big play guy, and he also plays some slot too. So not that I think Hardy's going to be a play this week, but I think he's a stash just to see how he's going to be utilized in this offense. His sneaky stash on Adams up 11. Well played.
For those of you that are watching, here's
well
what
played.
Everybody's laughing at. Oh, goodness.
We need Matt Donnelly on the show.
We got another good 2 QB question. Standard scoring, Jordan Love or Matt Stafford?
Jordan Love.
Bad. Christian Watson's out. Romeo Doubs may not play now.
Aaron Jones is still there. Give me Jordan Love. Give me the love. And he offers rushing ability. And Matt Stafford offers 0.
Does he offer rushing ability?
Seattle's
Jordan
passing
Love
defense
was just
pretty good.
He was just jogging for
that's
first
a crappy
down.
situation, but I'm rolling Love. Yeah.
He was just jogging for first downs. I mean, Matthew Stafford, I think Underdog Pick'em has him at negative 3.5 over higher or lower for his rushing.
Yeah.
God, I don't.
Well, and no, it's like we talked about, no Cup. That offensive line is still not good. They're going up against a fairly stout passing defense in Seattle. And you look at Jordan Love, even without his top two pass catchers, like you said, he does have Aaron Jones, and they're going up against the Bears defense that is not really all that, something to talk about. So it's gross, and I don't think you got a ton of upside, but I'm rolling Jordan Love.
One thing that Twitter is united about is Tyler Higbee. And so Twitter will explode if Tyler Higbee does not go nuclear this weekend. I will say that.
Yeah.
Jordan Love terrifies me because I just don't know that. I just don't think he can do it. I mean, I really don't know if he can. And I don't know if Matt Stafford could do it. This might be a spot where I go draft better because you couldn't get anybody better. You couldn't get Sam Howell. You couldn't get
Desmond Ridder.
Desmond Ridder, who's at least going to get you rushing upside. Go add Desmond Ridder is going to be my answer. Actually, go get Desmond Ridder.
Yep. All right, I got one. Tight end. It's a hot topic. We've been talking about quite a few of them here lately. Cole Kmet or Greg Dulcich? Who's your go-to this week? Greg Dulcich, I know, is a Lovejoy of Dave's. Cole Kmet, I've been high on. But you do have to question yourself. Jerry Jeudy likely not playing, it looks like. So do you roll with a Greg Dulcich, even though there's some talk around him not being the starting tight end? Or do you roll with a Cole Kmet in an offense that has DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney now? So who are you starting there, Adam?
Cole Kmet. Because
Dave?
I just don't think Dulcich is going to – I don't think Dulcich is the starter. They brought over Troutman from New Orleans, Sean Payton's second son outside after Taysom Hill, to be their starting tight end. And I think Russell Wilson's really bad, and I think Russell Wilson's going to be benched halfway through the season. So,
all right, Dave?
Russell Wilson is really bad, but he's really good against the Raiders because the Raiders are just worse than how bad he is. I'm going to use the Isaiah Likely as a point of measurement. So Isaiah Likely 76%, and then 5% for Kmet, and then 19 just said, "Show me the results." And then Dulcich was 78-7, Likely 78-7, 15% said, "Show me the results." I don't like either option, but I'm going to go with Greg Dulcich. If you can, go Isaiah Likely over both.
Yeah, and I'm rolling Cole Kmet. I just look, they paid this guy in the offseason. They like him. He had a good season with Justin Fields last year. I realized DJ Moore was not there, but I don't know that DJ Moore is going to prevent Cole Kmet from having another good, solid season from a tight end perspective. I think if anything, it helps him because Cole Kmet was really it last year. They didn't have anybody. Darnell Mooney was hurt for a little while. They didn't really have anything outside of that. So I think there's some opportunity for Kmet to really put together a solid season from a redraft or even a dynasty. I really like him in dynasty formats as well. I think we see Justin Fields maybe start to take a step forward from the quarterback position because he has some additional weapons and there's still that threat of his legs. So I'm rolling with Cole Kmet. And if I'm in dynasty and I don't have him and I need a tight end, he's definitely an affordable one that I'm willing to go spend a little bit of cash on, to be honest.
So we got a good question. I found a good one here. 2 out of 3 full PPR. Jamal Williams, Hollywood Brown, Alan Lazard.
That one's easy for me.
Alan Lazard. Well, Marquise Brown's out, so it's for me.
Oh, did he get ruled out?
And Jamal.
I don't think he's officially ruled out. Is that a 4:00 game?
As we all Google the schedule.
Yeah, you're right. I'm assuming Marquise Brown with a hamstring means he's not going to play. So
but
you're right. He is not declared as out. We talked a little bit about him earlier, but he's out for me. I'm not starting him over these other two options, Alan Lazard or Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams just has that upside. I feel like there's nobody else there. He may get all the carries. I think you're going to see week one coming out. And I say coming out, but it's really just that team effort of Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers going to make a statement to say, we're really damn good together. So I think you see everything funneling to him. Dalvin Cook being there is going to hurt Allen Lazard as well. So I'm rolling Jamal Williams there. So
he said pick 2, right?
Yeah, pick 2.
Oh yeah, well there you go.
Yeah,
those two are it. Yeah,
I like Lazard. I know that I've always had an affinity for him, but I like him with Corey Davis out, with Hackett, with Rodgers. Rodgers has always been he's been a loyal dude, and so he's gonna give Randall Cobb way too many targets. He's gonna give Allen Lazard way too many targets. But I love the fact that Allen Lazard is moving to the slot. He was a fish out of water when he was playing on the outside as the wide receiver 1, and he's a deep threat. I know McCole Hardman is there, but Lazard and Rodgers, that's like Allen and Davis. When you're talking about like one of the top deep threat duos in the league, and so you could see some Lazard with some big plays this week. Start Jets players and sit Bills players.
This question feels targeted to get me to go on a rant, but I'm going to remain composed right now and just say you can go ahead if you really just are feeling charitable and want to give your opponent a free win and just give away your money. I mean, that would be my answer.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty optimistic around James Cook and the Bills right now. I like the opportunity I think he's going to get. I'm hoping that they continue to build on what we saw out of him in the back half of the season than the opportunity. I know they brought Damian Harris in or whatever, but he's not even remotely close to as explosive as James Cook is. And I just think he's the guy for them right now. So obviously you're not setting Diggs. We talked a little bit about him earlier. I don't think he's going to see a ton of Sauce Gardner because he's going to be playing a decent amount from the slot. Which is going to help him out a lot. And I don't think the Jets are going to shadow him, to be honest. So I think you've got some good players on both sides here. But Gabe Davis out of the Bills is the only one that is a true sit for me out of the group. So
I don't know if you guys do your rankings. You do your rankings on Fantasy Pros. I know that. So there's the ECR report. And I like looking at that because it shows you the players and it says like guys I like more, guys I like less. And so it does kind of give you a little heat check if you're maybe a little bit over your skis on somebody or really far behind. But Jamal Williams is a guy that it was like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure about that.
Are you sure about that? I love those. One of my favorite moments was my fiance like 2 years ago was doing a mock draft. And it shows you at the end of the Fantasy Pros mock draft who liked your draft and who didn't like your draft. And it was like, oh, Adam Pelletier hated your draft.
There are some players that just automatically make that a bad start, against Adam's group. If Tua is one of your quarterbacks, he's going to hate your draft, right? That's
100%. Never in doubt.
It doesn't matter what the rest of your roster looks like. So
I could love every other player, and I'm just going to be like, no, you have Tua. It's garbage.
All right, let's get into this flex spot question for Sam. He says, okay, we got a flex spot. I got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers to choose from. Do I roll with Elijah Moore or Jonathan Mingo, or do I go to the running back position and start Jamal Williams or Samaje Perine? Only one to start. I'll give you guys a second to think through this. I've been thinking through it a little bit, and as much as it pains me to say it, I do have a Browns shirt on right now. I'm ready to root for him. I am going to go with Jamal Williams out of these 4. Again, volume. He's going to get all of it. And we've seen him in an offense that gives scoring opportunity. He can score inside the 5, inside the 10. He's got some pass catching upside as well. So I'm rolling with Jamal Williams out of the 4. Jonathan Mingo is nowhere in my radar. I know that DJ Shark is out and not playing, which means Mingo's going to get some opportunity, but I'm not really looking to start that situation, rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver in an offense that, we expect to kind of really be behind the curve a little bit this season. And Samaje Perine, as much as I like him, I just think Javonte Williams is healthy and going to be the guy there and get the bulk of the work. There's a lot of love around Jaleel McLaughlin, who also has been talked about getting some work in this game. So I don't think Samaje Perine really has any upside at all this week. And then Elijah Moore would be my second choice here if for some reason the scoring format lean towards the wide receiver position instead of the running back position. But I'm rolling Jamal Williams. So, Dave, where are you at?
Yeah, Sam, if you could let us know the scoring settings, that always helps with any of these questions so we can help you with better answers. Jamal Williams, like I said, he's the guy that I'm the highest on this list. I would go Elijah Moore next and then Samaje Perine. As far as Jonathan Mingo, I'm concerned about him and Adam Thielen playing together if they play together, because if they put Adam Thielen in the slot, which is where Mingo played 89% of his snaps in college, then again, you got a guy that's going outside. And it's not just like if you've played football, it's not just the same thing of just being like, I'm going to go play outside, I'm going to go play inside. They're two totally different positions. You're facing way different defenses. A lot of press man on the outside. A lot of times you're moving around, doing a lot of motion stuff. No one's hands are on you. And so it's totally different. And so if Jonathan Mingo is in the slot, I would like him a lot better. But he's bottom of the list. Jamal Williams, easy for me.
Yeah. Adam?
Jamal Williams, not even a question. Right now, he's just going to get too much work. There's nobody else in that offense right now. Jamal Williams. Also, just saving you here, Dan. I know, Dan, that is Sketchables. Dan, I need you to give Casey your phone after you put Justin Herbert in the lineup, and don't do anything else. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I heard somebody on a podcast that shall not be named say that one of the best tools when setting your lineup are the projections. That is not true. Like, do not set your lineup based off of projections. You can use that as kind of an input into how you set your lineup, but do not set your lineup based on just whoever the highest projected points are. So even in this situation, Rodgers being 1 point behind, I don't care if he's 1 point above. There is no way in hell I am benching Justin Herbert ever. Like, not happening. So
I mean, I might even start him on his bye week if I'm being honest, because I think there's a chance that based on what the lineup is, he might do better than whoever I have to pick up off waivers.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like that's been all the notes or comments in the section as well. Go Herbert.
I'm going to have to text Casey and make sure Dan does that correctly.
Yeah. All right. Hope that helps you out, Sketchables. Let's move on to Alex Smith. And hey, Alex, you had a good career, man. I hope you're enjoying retirement. Let's see if we can help you out in the fantasy space. Looking for two. Do you start DeAndre Hopkins, Kenneth Walker, Najee Harris, and James Conner? You need to pick two. Adam, let's kick it to you first.
I'm going to go with DeAndre Hopkins and Kenneth Walker. Najee Harris and James Conner just scare me for different reasons. James Conner, I think that offense is going to be bad this year with Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune. I watched Josh Dobbs lead an offense last year for a couple games. It was fun, but it wasn't good. It was miserable. It was a bad experience. And Najee Harris, feels like a prime candidate to just see his workload cut down by Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren looked more explosive all year than Najee. And at the end of the year, we saw Mike Tomlin start to do something that he's never done before and go with a split backfield. Given all of that, Kenneth Walker still going to get the goal line work in Seattle. They trust him. Coaches don't like to trust rookies, as we saw with Jahmyr Gibbs getting robbed of his work on Thursday night. And DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins, and Ryan Tannehill is going to go to him and going to trust him.
Yeah. Dave?
I'm worried about Ken Walker's groin injury. And Sebastian was talking about how it's a re-injury is the biggest concern. And I was listening to Matthew Betts saying the same thing. When somebody re-injures something and then they're questionable week one of an injury that happened in July, it's a problem. So I'm going to go with Najee, and then I'm going to go with Hopkins because it's full point PPR, But Alex, great job. Like we had someone earlier that was scraping from the bottom of the barrel. You have 4 pretty solid options here. So I think you got a very good squad. You might want to package some of these guys and get some blue chip pieces. But you have a very good squad. I'm gonna go Najee Harris and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, Connor is definitely the out for me. Yes, he's going to get volume, but he's there with Josh Dobbs at the quarterback position, possibly no Hollywood Brown, a rookie in Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch possibly playing in the slot. Zach Ertz still hurt, so you may see Trey McBride. Like, it's just not a good offensive situation. So where he might get some carry volume, I think they're going to be down early, and they're going to move away from that. And I just don't see him as a viable option this week. So James Conner's definitely on the bottom for me. And because of the groin injury, and like you said, like Dave mentioned, if you haven't looked at or paid attention to Sebastian, make sure you go check him out on Twitter with the SGPN family. It is SGPN Football Doc, I believe, is his Twitter handle.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you go check him out for all the latest injury updates. And because of that update, I'm really leaning away from Kenneth Walker here as well. Not only because of that, but also they have a very high draft pick in second round, Zach Charbonnet, who they can put in the game and rely on to make sure that they don't further injure Kenneth Walker with that groin injury or increase the severity of it. So I think there is a chance where they lighten the load for Kenneth Walker and give Zach Charbonnet a little bit of an opportunity, where I even plugged Zach Charbonnet into a flex, which I typically wouldn't do in this scenario because I think he's going to get a little bit of work. So Najee Harris, even with that lineup against the San Francisco 49ers, I just think the volume and his pass catching ability out of the backfield is going to be there. And DeAndre Hopkins is the next up for me. So I'll go Najee and Nuke. All right. So we got another one from Bean Productions. Bean Productions look like a pretty big Bengals fan, possibly, but PPR in his flex, Mike Evans or Deion Jackson. Dave, let's kick it to you first.
Yeah, this is similar to the answer before. I'll hedge my bet saying if you need a boom play, go with Mike Evans. I mean, he can catch 3 balls, 3 touchdowns, whether it's 3 yards or 200. Like, Mike Evans has big games. But I'm going to take the safe play here, Deion Jackson. I have him at 58. Also, and my Fantasy Pros had an expert advice article this week. Deion Jackson was my guy outside of the top 100 flex that would outperform. And I got a little riding on it.
Again, that Mike Evans upside is just really nice. He's that big physical red zone target, and positive regression is coming for him because he only had 6 touchdowns last year after back-to-back double-digit touchdown seasons. I really like Mike Evans in this spot to have a big game. I think Baker Mayfield's going to be able to find him. The Baker Mayfield experience usually doesn't go off the rails until like week 6, right, Brad? I mean, you've been on that ride for a while now.
Yes.
There's usually some hope to start. There's some hope to start, and then people key on what he's doing, and then it's over.
14 in one season. That might be a record.
Yeah, I'm going Deion Jackson. I am, like I said earlier on the show, I'm probably way too low on Mike Evans just in general. I don't want anything to do with him. I just think he's in a bad spot. So I'm rolling with Deion Jackson right now, who I have as my current RB 22 for the week. And I've got Mike Evans down in the 30s, I believe.
Yeah, I got them 2 spots apart. So I don't think either of them are like, I don't think it's an easy question. But question for you, Adam, do you have any concerns about the trade rumors? And so they're possibly trading Mike Evans. He could be, could be someone that shopped. They had the self-imposed deadline of yesterday for a deal. So it was not done. I know as soon as Thursday night happened, everyone was like, Chiefs are going to go get Mike Evans with this fake money that they don't have. But do the Buccaneers try to save Mike Evans at all? Does Mike Evans try to save himself at all for a potential trade and payday?
Mike Evans is my prime receiver to get traded before the end of this year, just because he's on a bad team that's rebuilding, that's trying to find guys. And, his number is reasonable. It's not terrible. He only has a 10.2 cap hit right now. So that's something that you could absorb. If you're a team like the Bucks and you can get an asset, you're going to be willing to carry some of that money on your books. The Giants feels far-fetched because they just spent money on Darren Waller. Something more likely, and it'd be tough because they're in the division. Carolina needs receivers right now. Carolina just needs bites at the apple at receiver. And if they can't pry T. Higgins away from the Bengals, which I don't think anybody's going to be able to do unless you're offering a first rounder, then I think Evans would be the next best receiver who's gettable right now.
I think you have some older receivers that have been traded recently. He's definitely getting up there. So I think he gets traded for something better than what Amari Cooper was traded for. Brad, congrats on the fleecing.
Yes, it was.
Hate the Cowboys, but I think maybe a second or third round pick for Mike Evans. I don't know if they get a first at this age. Plus, they got to give him a contract.
Yeah, a first for Mike Evans is going to be really rich, but if you're a team like Carolina's problem is
Carolina doesn't have a first.
They don't have a first, but Carolina should be trying to see if they can get T. Higgins away. And are you going to give up? Would you give up a second and Marshall for T. Higgins?
Brian Burns for T. Higgins? They got
Cincinnati can't pay T. Higgins. Yeah. They're not paying Brian Burns. That's the problem.
And they got edge rushers. Tampa Bay could use an edge. Just saying.
Yeah. Just saying. All right, gents, we've been going for about an hour. We answered a ton of questions. Make sure you check us out, SGPN Fantasy Football on Twitter and YouTube. SGP, Dave at Dynasty Dorks. Make sure you check him out. Adam at Adam Pelletier, and me at FF Bourbon Dude. Make sure you give us likes, follows, and I feel remiss that I can't go a show without doing this for Dave. So make sure that you. All right, we'll talk to y'all later, and good luck on week 1.
Good luck this week.